Welcome to the Holyland Dispatch podcast.
Welcome everyone to another episode of the Holyland Dispatch podcast. The world is changing in front of our eyes, and I believe we should note this. In a few decades, if nothing too major transpires, some of these changes will be taught in schools, and I hope our grandchildren will think of it as a positive shift. It is true that these changes came at the heels of some really nasty stuff, like the war in Ukraine, the war in Gaza, Lebanon, and Iran, and a devastating anti-West wave within the US. But light is only observable in contrast to darkness. Good comes out of evil. There are still things to be done, but we're well equipped to do them. With President Trump in the White House, Netanyahu as PM in Israel, and other positive forces such as Javier Milei in Argentina and some noticeable shifts in South America, there is a chance to make a long-lasting change for the better. Europe is for the most part well behind. So is Australia and Canada. They will have to wake up from the dangerous slumber they're in. Otherwise, they will find themselves not as major players in the Western liberal free world, but as part of an axis that is dominated by totalitarian regimes. Scoff at it at your own peril. Trump has his shortcomings, and as Dumisani Washington wisely says, chief among them are his friendship with Qatar and Turkey. I find it quite inexplicable myself. Having said that, he is certainly the best American president I remember, and I've seen a few in my life. Netanyahu has his faults, to be sure, but he is the best prime minister Israel ever had, with only early Ben-Gurion rivaling him. For the last 2+ years, Netanyahu as prime minister and Trump as candidate and then president were constantly attacked by the woke leftist mob with more than a hint of cynicism and malice for their actions. The streets and campuses in the US and throughout the West were constantly full of the masses, protesting in favor of Hamas and the IRGC. Of course, this was masked behind the so-called compassionate care for people's lives. Oh, the poor Gazans who were under attack by the colonial state who only gave up territories in the last 30 years. Oh, the poor Ayatollahs who were attacked by the evil West and all they ever wanted was a nuclear bomb so they can deliver on their promise to destroy Israel and the US. Celebrities, TV show hosts, and opportunistic self-proclaimed human rights activists jumped on the bandwagon, condemning Israel and Trump for their brutal attack on those poor homicidal innocents who didn't by any means initiate the war. Then came the so-called ceasefire. The streets were left empty. The only strife seems to be woke, self-destructive Antifa-type terrorists attacking federal agents in the US. The streets of Tehran and many other cities in Iran, though, filled with people who are actually under the boot of a ruthless totalitarian regime who spent all of their money on funding terror instead of their own citizens. You know, the same regime on the side of whom all those leftist masses stood back in June 2025. The Iranian people who lived under this stupid, selfish, hostile regime have had enough. And so, these brave people decided to use the relative weakness of said regime to go out and protest. Now, I look around on the TV, on the internet, looking for some reaction in the streets of the West, and nothing. Nada. Klum. No masses gathering, no wet eyes, no heart-wrenching cries in solidarity with the people who struggle, no calls of support. The only people in the streets are Iranian expats who want their country back, and Jews. Where are you, masses? Where are you, woke leftist mobs? Where are you, celebrities, TV show hosts, self-proclaimed activists? Where are you, Greta? Are you jumping on a camel to cross the Middle East to bring a half can of baked beans to the poor people of Iran? Why the cold shoulder? Well, let's take the masks off, shall we? You don't care about the people of Iran. If you did, you'd have been out there calling to support them. You only scream, shout, tear down cities and behave like petulant kids when Jews are the perceived oppressors. If you can't paint the Jews as the oppressors, why should you leave the comfort of your home and demonstrate? In fact, when you can portray Israel like oppressors of Gazans, you don't really care about the Gazans. If you had, you would have called on Egypt to open the border so the poor Gazans could flee the war zone, like other countries did for the Ukrainians. If you had, you'd have called on Hamas to leave, and the war would have ended that very moment. You don't care about Gazans any more than you do the Iranian people. You don't care about people at all. You are a fascistic group of narcissists who only go out to virtue signal and do absolutely nothing constructive to help anyone. Your moral compass has long been broken. You keep shouting that you want freedom, but will forever support dictators and evil regimes, while the administration that was accused of resembling Nazi Germany is out there promoting independence and freedom. So where are you, masses? Where is your compassion? Why don't the people of Iran deserve any of it? This will simply be another stain on your whole camp throughout history. You will stand with the Stalinists and the Hitlerians. You will stand with the Chavezes and Maduros and Khomeinis and the Arafats. But you won't stand with the people they oppress, murder, and imprison. Shame on you. Of course, when I asked the question on Substack, there had to be someone who brings the morally rotten comparison between the Iranian people and the Gazans. They wanted to understand how I can both voice a grave concern for the people of Iran while having less concern for the people of Gaza. Well, let me start by qualifying that I do care about the minority of Gazans who did not elect Hamas, supported them throughout the years, and continued to do so after October 7th, 2023. Those few individuals are indeed bearing the brunt of their societal decision to stand behind a murderous organization who, quite like their Ayatollah idols, siphoned every donated penny to the manufacturings of arm and terror instead of their own people. Having said that, the people of Gaza share close to nothing with the people of Iran. In terms of morals, in terms of legitimacy, in terms of objective innocence, close to nothing. The people of Gaza, in the thousands, participated in October 7th. It is well documented. They celebrated the murder of Israeli babies. They kept hostages in their homes, abused and treated them with violence. You know, during the Holocaust in Europe, there were some people, we call them heroes, who hid Jews from the Nazis, helped out with food or safe passage. There were a few people who did something to help Jews. There was not a single Gazan willing to help any of the hostages, not a single one. Even when great financial and other incentives were promised, not a single Gazan was willing to do anything to help Kfir and Ariel Bibas. The Iranian people did not, in fact, start a war against the regime. All they did was try to live their lives under their heavy boot. They only wanted some water to drink. They wanted an economy that functions. They wanted some dignity. The people of Gaza, who could have chosen to direct their complaints to their elected government of Hamas, chose instead to turn to terrorist activities against Israel. Unlike them, the people of Iran pointed to the right place, the actual people who oppress them, the Ayatollahs. There is no moral equivalence here. Then again, you won't know moral if it invaded your country and hit you in the face. Now, while I was asking for the whereabouts of the masses on Substack and urged President Trump to act, I've expectedly got some reaction from the woke right as well. Not to be outdone by their lefty newfound comrades, they too don't seem to give two shits about the people being oppressed, imprisoned, and murdered in the thousands. Those reactions were divided into a couple of categories. 1, the America First. 2, my all-time favorite, the Netanyahu-controls-Trump camp. Let us discuss these reactions and I'll address both in one go. I dedicated a piece on my Substack for the isolationists, but I think this is as good as any opportunity to demonstrate to them the error of their ways. The term America First is being thrown around these days not as Trump intended it, necessarily, but more as a completely lazy statement used to cover something else entirely. As I mentioned in my original post about this, I am totally on board with America First. Not that anyone should care about my opinion, I just bring it up to preface the next bits. America First, as I understand it, is a policy that states the following. The US government shall promote, act, and make decisions while prioritizing American interests above others. It means that whenever there is a big decision to be made, there may be many factors to consider and they are all important. When decision time comes, though, what will eventually guide it is American interests. I believe it's a fair assessment of the policy, and I think it makes perfect sense for the American administration, and more so for the American people. Why should the American people care more about the citizens of, say, Somalia than the citizens of America? Answer: they should not. So, you might ask now, so why should the American citizen care more about the people of Iran than the American citizen? Answer: they should not. These people who make the American First argument against American action in Iran don't really understand my point. I do not expect the US administration nor American citizens to care about Iranians more than they do about Americans. I simply would like to see that the American administration cares also for the people of Iran. Whether the American people agree or not, the US is the hegemony. It is in fact the leading superpower, with a great deal of influence worldwide. Now, as opposed to the Bush world police type administration who got involved in what the America First camp think of as forever wars, Trump's White House is far from being inclined to initiate these. That is a wise decision. The thing is that I, and many like me, do not expect Trump to start a war. I don't want the American to sink in the mud of another forever war. I do believe, though, that there is a way to help the Iranian people without being stuck in another war in the Middle East. I also believe that Trump wants to help, and that once he does, it won't resemble Bush's Iraqi and Afghani campaigns, not by any stretch. There are ways to help the Iranian people do the majority of the work themselves without having a single American boot on the ground. Still, you might ask, but why should the American do anything? America first. Well, I'll leave the obvious moral argument aside as we're discussing American interests here. Why is helping the Iranian people in America's interest? Well, let me talk shortly about the operation in Venezuela. We all know the stated reasons for the operation. Maduro was indeed the head of a drug cartel who funneled loads of dangerous drugs into the US. He was also a typical communist, ruthless dictator who had it coming. No need to sell me on that any more than these arguments. The thing is, those are not the actual reasons for the operation. These are the dressings, the red ribbon tied in a nice bow. The reason for this operation was a pure America First reason. By shaking the Venezuelan regime and all related actions taken by Trump recently in that arena, the US hopes to see a significant change in that country. A change that would achieve a few things at once. Take out a significant player from the axis of evil. Venezuela was an important source of energy for China. Venezuela was a base of operation and finance for Hezbollah. Venezuela was aligned in every aspect, including trade, with China, Iran, North Korea, and Russia bloc. By taking out this bloc, not only does Trump weakens it, thus strengthening America, he also helps strengthening South America's apparent shift away from socialism and into the bloc that is far more aligned with American values and foreign ones. America first, people. Back to Iran. Let Trump claim the moral high ground. It will also be well earned anyway, and do what's good for America. If Iran can be wrenched out of that axis of evil, and perhaps even goes back to becoming a liberal Western country, and rebuilds a healthy, reasonable economy that promotes growth over destruction, well, that weakens the axis of evil further. That opens up unprecedented economic and strategic benefits for the US. America first, people. The narrow-minded view that some of the America first camp has really works against their voiced interests. I believe Trump is well above this. I believe Trump sees that America First is not a policy that focuses only on the here and now. It's not a policy that isolates America from the rest of the world, because that is not in America's interests. American interests, as the superpower, are in fact to interact with the world, engage in trade and strategic agreements, only do so from the perspective of what's best for America. That includes taking a couple of tyrants out of play if necessary. And finally, the winning argument of every debate these days: how are the Jews behind these? Well, of course, don't you know it? Netanyahu is the puppet master, and Trump is but the marionette. What a joke. Donald Trump is the strongest leader on the planet right now. Netanyahu is struggling to pass laws in the Israeli Knesset. Yet somehow, he uses his, Jewishness to control the man who pretty much rules over the Western Hemisphere. What a laughable, ignorant, and, yes, anti-Semitic argument. The woke right inhabits similar spheres as the woke left, and it is just as bad for humanity. The same kind of dangers lurk within their delusions and racist conspiracies. It's an argument that comes out without fail whenever Trump does anything these clowns don't like. They don't want to outright attack Trump because, well, they are cowards. So instead, they default to the oldest trick in the book. It's the Jews. Well, these folks are just as morally decrepit as the woke leftist mobs. Same kind of narcissism, racism, and delusional stances. Let us summarize. The people of Iran are trying to win the freedom that was stolen from them in 1979 and get out from under the ruthless boots of a fanatic, ruthless regime who doesn't care about them. The left has abandoned them because they don't actually care about anyone but themselves. The woke right abandoned them, well, for the exact same reason. Isolationists misunderstand the concept called America First. Trump apparently does not. And who cares about the people of Iran? I'd say that for the most part, Iranian expats, people in the conservative right who did not lose the plot, I expect the numbers are far bigger than the current level of noise, and Israelis, of course. I invite you all to join me in prayer for the safety of the Iranian people and for their success in breaking the shackles holding them down. May God help you defeat the dictatorship, live long and prosper. That was it for the week. If you'd like to share, like, and or subscribe to my stack, please do so, and I appreciate you listening regardless. And as usual, thank you for joining this episode of the Holyland Dispatch podcast. God bless.